but this is enough light, but, or if one's really easily accessible.
You have to put a hole in a desk is all.
Kept it out, for like 8 years, and then dropped it off for like 5 years, and then got a job out of college as a silversmith. Did that for 2.5 years as a silversmithing assistant. Realized I really don't like working with metal all that much. No offense. Because I learned how to silversmith when I was 12. So, 5 years of college, and then you get a job doing something you knew how to do when you were 12. And when I moved to Seattle, I started cutting stones full time because that was my first love, and I still had equipment and everything. And so I've been cutting stones full time for about the past 5 or 6 years. That's a little bit about me. If you want to know more about me, you can look in the December 1995 Lapidary Journal. It was my life story. And I've never done this workshop before. They called me in January and said, Virginia Causey was going to do this workshop, and she backed out of it. Can you do it? You're perfect for it. And I'm like, yeah. So I had done a drilling workshop last summer, and I decided to really expand on that. So I'm going to give you a schedule for the workshop, what we're going to cover, what we won't cover, and what can you expect to take from this workshop. And then we'll just get right into it. There's an awful lot of material to cover in 2 hours, and since I've never really run through this start to finish, I'm probably going to go a little bit quickly, and if at any point, and if we finish early, then we can go back and answer lots of questions and show a little bit more technique. Schedule for the workshop, first we're going to cover dopping. And I've made out really pretty detailed notes, so you don't have to spend lots of time writing. You can spend more time watching. Let me get one copy. I'm on the same page as you. Go to the second page. You don't even really have to look at this, but we're going to cover dopping, which is about how to put stones on sticks so that your little stones you're not holding in your fingers when you're using high-speed equipment. And then we're going to cover drilling, and I'm going to talk about drilling stones, different kinds of stones, how to drill glass, how to drill, and how to drill pearls. And then we're going to go on to reshaping forms of stones, and that's how you can do a rough reshaping and finishing of the edge of a stone if you just want to change the shape of it. Also how to shape drusies. If you just get some druzy rough, you could actually sort of do your own drusies. I don't know why I'm teaching you this, you'll find it from me. And then some resurfacing and repairing of stones. How to put a new finish on stone, repair chips, cracks, and if the stone's really worn and it has to be repolished. And then we'll move on to polishing the stones. So that's what we'll cover. What we won't cover is we won't do anything regarding faceting or faceted stones whatsoever. I never learned to facet. I did every single other thing our rock club covered and taught classes in, but the facetors always sat in a corner and talked to themselves, and they were really snobby. And they didn't, unlike all the other senior citizens who were really nice to me and taught me how to do everything. So I've always had this unnatural prejudice towards facetors and faceted stones. I'm sure some of you work with faceted stones. That's your prerogative. So there'll be nothing regarding faceted stones. It's all going to be about cabochons and drusies and bullets and beads and stuff. And everything else that we won't cover, and you'll see that we didn't cover it. But you can ask about it, and I can tell you whether or not I can tell you anything about it. And what you can expect to take from this class is information on method for doing this. Just like you can't go into a 2-hour workshop on, cutting silver, soldering silver, filing silver, buffing silver, and walk out of it and make a perfect piece of jewelry. You can't come in here and see all the techniques for cutting stones and go home and take that beautiful opal with a chip right out of it and whip right into it and make it perfect. Anything that you're going to learn in here, you'll have to take home and practice. The thing about stones is that they're not uniform. Every single stone is different. Every piece of turquoise is different from every other piece of turquoise. There's no uniformity, and that's one thing I think a lot of metalsmiths, you count on in your metal is that, you're always going to be working with silver or copper or gold, and that it's got a certain consistency and predictability. You don't get that in stone, so it makes a lot of experimentation necessary. But what you will take from this class is you'll know the methods and somewhat of the techniques, and if you have a flex shaft and a buffer, you can go home and for under $100 get everything you need to start playing with this stuff and experiment with it. Going right into this, let's see. We're going to, first I'm going to show you how to dop stones. This is heated up. Dopping, the purpose of dopping is so that you don't rip your fingers apart. However, I don't dop stones anymore. I learned how to not rip my fingers apart. And also, I think I have really good stone cutter's fingers. You know, they're small, my nails grow really fast and are strong. So I can, you know, go right up to the wheel and hold a stone like this against the wheel. However, I use, there's one other thing I want to say about this class, is that that's hot. This isn't the way I do it. I have, you know, professional lapidary equipment at home. I have big grinders and sanders and bigger grinders and sanders and diamond-bladed saws and all sorts of stuff. And so when they asked me to do this class, I sort of had to think backwards, you know, on how you would do this using different equipment and everything. So the stones are the same, and some of the materials are the same, but you're working on a much smaller scale. And so I had to rethink it, and I know how to do it. I know what you have to do, but it's not the way I do it. So if it doesn't come up looking like I'm a super professional, you come watch me on a big 8-inch barrel drum and I'll whip something out for you. But in here, you know, I can show you everything, but I'm also not going to do a stone like start to finish. Because like I said, every stone is so different. Learning how to do one stone start to finish isn't really going to help you. You have to experiment. So dopping. Purpose of dopping is a way to hold your stones so that you can have a little bit more control over them. You don't worry about messing up your fingers. These are dop sticks. You can use wooden dowels, you can use nails, you can use little pieces of copper tubing, you can buy expensive pre-made dop sticks, whatever. This is dop wax. Dop wax is just a green sealing wax like they used to seal letters with. You can get it from any lapidary supply store. A lot of jewelry supply stores carry it also. You just want the green lapidary wax. And the technique for doing this, and the other materials you'll need besides dop sticks, stones you want to dop, and this cooler area, is dop wax, a hot plate, and a warming thing. You can melt your wax in a little cat food can over a candle, and you can warm your stones on top of, you know, turn this over, put a pie plate on it, put your stones on it. You know, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I just have this because I like it. So what you do is you warm up your stones first. You want your stones to be clean, because if there's, you know, sludge or dust or anything, you're not going to get a good bar with the wax. And you warm up your wax. You want your wax to be not bubbling, not too liquidy, but not too soft. It melts really quickly and it cools really quickly. The other thing is that it stays really hot for a brief period of time. So you can burn yourself pretty bad. What I do is I take the stick, I swirl it around in here, I pick up some wax, I let it cool just a little bit so it's drippy. So I don't want it to be too oozy. And then take my stone, make sure I get the side down that I want at the top. You center it, wet your fingers, push down all the way around. If it starts sticking to your fingers, go, ow, pull back. One thing when you're first starting doing this and first experimenting with it, you're probably going to want to have a little bowl of cold water next to you. And if you do start to burn, just, and you know it's gone. I mean, it cools really quickly. So, and you want to make sure that your stick is centered in the stone and that your stick is upright, and you're pushing the wax down and around it so that you get a seal. And if it's just a tiny bit off, it's, you know, not a huge deal. You just have to compensate when you're cutting. And I'll just do a couple to show you how easy it is. Again, just scoop up some wax, twirl it so it cools down a little bit if it's not already cool. Pick a side in your stone. And you can dop without heating up your stones, but I find that they stick a lot better.
Do you want some water?
No. That's what I got invented spit for stone cutters and rock hounds. I mean, it's so fun to go to a rock show and just look at all these old people spitting on rocks. And You know, they finally got over licking them.
Not the ones I know.
Really? Right. Well, when you do it as much as I do, I'm just like, I'm already absorbing so much of this stuff. See, little stone, little stick, chopsticks. I think that when I die, they can probably mine my liver. And the larger your stone, you're probably going to want a larger stick. No, it's not absolutely necessary, but it also it gives you more of a backup.
How warm is that hot plate?
It's below low.
The one
This?
stones are hot.
It's just one of those things your grandma had to keep, you know, stuff, to keep your bums and casseroles and stuff warm. I got this at Goodwill for $1. You know, I got this somewhere for a couple bucks. And don't worry if you go over the edges. If your dot wax comes up over the edge, you just grind or sand that off. So like I said, I use bigger sticks for bigger stones. It doesn't matter. I've seen some dop sticks this big around, like I'm cutting a big stone like that. But again, I don't really do this anymore because I hold all my stones right against the wheel. I do use it for much smaller stones, and one of the reasons I wanted to teach you this and use it here is what we're going to be doing is using the flex shaft, which goes at a much higher rate of speed than my big wheels. My big wheels turn at, you know, 1750, and the flex shaft goes up, you know, this one goes up to 20,000. And generally, when the smaller your tool you're working with, the faster it has to go to get the same effect. And then you just got to let your stones set for, I let them cool down for a good half hour to just really sort of get a good bond. Another thing that you can use that I also got when I was a kid, and I occasionally use it, but it's pretty limited, but I thought I'd show you this because you might say, oh my god, I could use that for other things. It's an amazing tool. It's called a Cab Master. It's advertised in some little ad in the back of Lapidary Journal. It's basically a dop stick vise, and it's got little prongs here, and you can put a stone in there like that, and you just open up the jaws a little bit, make sure that the little things are on there, and then you tighten it up. The problem is that it puts a lot of pressure on your stones, and so you can crack stones. Also, if you don't put enough pressure on, it'll come out, and your stone will fall. And you can't go all the way down to the edge, and you can't use it with really thin stones. You can't use it with really odd-shaped stones. But it does have different sets of jaws. These just unscrew, and you can put in different jaws and do different size stones. It's good for some things, and like I said, you don't have to deal then with all that. But you also can't it's harder to hold like that, whereas with a dop stick you can have your fingers right there, but they're far enough away. This is called a Cab Master. And what we're going to
Not worth it to get it?
it depends. You know, I'm sort of glad I have it. It's a gadget. I sometimes think, oh, I need my Cab Master, and I pull it out and I dig it out from the dust, and I use it for a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, I don't need to use that anymore. But I thought I'd show it to you. Also, I can't help but think that there must be metalsmithing applications for this, where you'd want a little vise where you can hold things, and you know, I think it would be a great, you know, like if you're buffing something, you know, I don't know. So I wanted to show it to you. The other thing I wanted to say about all of this in general is that an awful lot of what you'll learn, I think you can extrapolate to working with metal. What I made bezel cups for a living for 2.5 years. I worked for some stone junkies, and they I made bezel cup after bezel. I made hundreds and hundreds, thousands of bezel cups, and I filed like for a month or two, and I finally said, I will go insane making bezel cups if I have to file every bezel cup. And I just started sanding them all on my big sanding unit, and I've not filed, you know, a major piece of silver in forever. So some of the things that we'll talk about you can use on metal. I mean, people think, oh, you shouldn't use diamond discs and stuff on metal. You know, it'll go right through it, and it doesn't really clog it up or anything. So let me pull out a bunch of little gadgets. We're doing next drilling.
Is the piece in the middle of the desk, is that sort of a jerry rig kind of a thing?
Yeah, I'll talk about that in just a minute. Drilling, we need drill bits. We need chucky and scrap piece of chain. I'll show you that. I'll show you this. If you really, really get into drilling, you can count on wasting lots of bits. This is like, you know, $1,000, $2,000 worth of drill.
And are you going to have this resharpened?
You can't resharpen diamond drill bits. I'll talk about this in a minute. The thing about diamond drill bits is they burn out. You know, I've talked to people at lapidary supply stores where I don't find mine because I have a cheaper source. But, you know, people will buy a couple diamond drill bits and they'll pay a couple dollars each for them. And then they go home and they drill something and they burn out. And they come back and they're like, I paid $4 for this and I only got through one stone and it's gone. And it's like, well, that's why you need to take David's class. So what I've got here, go back to page 1, and I'll start talking you through my diagram. This is a diagram of what I have here. And I first started drilling stones a couple years ago when I first moved here. I met Mickey Lippy, and I met her at a Seattle Metal Skill function, and she said, I really need somebody to drill holes in my beads for me, and I've been sending it off to New York to have it done, and I'd really like to have it done locally. Could you do that? And I'm like, oh, sure. I never drilled a hole in a stone in my life. And, but, you know, I was desperate to make a living as a stone cutter and stuff, so she gave me this stuff, and I went out and bought all these things that I thought I needed, and I wasted hundreds of dollars on diamond drill bits before I figured out this that you're about to be privy to. So you can save yourself all this hassle. You need a flex shaft. You need a vise, or a drill press. Let me go through my list. You need this flow-through system. What I have here is just a bucket. It's got a little drain on it. It's got a piece of tubing. You can get all this stuff at a hardware store, but by the time you spend however long looking in the plumbing department at Eagle Hardware and trying to figure out all the little things you need, you go, gosh, I wish I had listened to David and gone and just gotten one prepackaged from Loretone for $10 or whatever. Loretone, which is a local lapidary manufacturer, sells these in a little box, and they're like 10 or 12 bucks, which is a lot for just a couple pieces of things. But you know, like I said, it's easier than finding it out. You just drill a hole in there, assemble it according to the instructions, and you've got a drain. Put your little tube in there, and I use the third hand to direct my water. And that way I can get water going right where I need it. And then you have a Tupperware underneath your drill press. Probably want to clamp it down. Then you can just take another piece of tubing and you can take another little clamp or a third hand and stick it in the bottom. And this way I have water flowing exactly where I need it, and the water flows out. A lot of people will say drill underwater. Nice idea. You can't see what you're doing. It gets all filled with sediment. And also the speed of the drill bit going around in the water actually creates like a little whirlpool. So you're not actually getting water in contact with where you're working. The other advantage of the flow-through system is not only that you get a lot of water there, but it flushes away the debris, and it gives you a clear view of what you're drilling. So you can see little bits of ground up stone or glass coming out of there, and then if it suddenly changes gray and you see a little flash of light inside what you're drilling, you realize you burned out your drill bit. I have just this piece of plastic down in here. This was originally for something else. It was for a spritzer on my lapidary equipment, and it had a little geyser that came out here and shot water up here, and I don't know where the tube went in, but It sucked up water and spit it at my flat lap on the side of my thing. I didn't really like it. It sat around in my studio, and then one day I was looking at this and I said, you know, I need a drill plate. I just picked it up and used it as a drill plate, so I wouldn't drill through my Tupperware. And then I realized that with this little channel here, I could put a tube in there and it sucked water all the way up. So that's a great thing. The other thing I'll point out now is
What is that made of?
it's made out of like,
Ceramic material?
no, it's not ceramic. It's like
Plastic?
it's one of those fancy plastics.
Okay.
Delrin?
Don't know. Doesn't matter.
Plastic would work.
Looks like Delrin.
Plastic would work, Delrin would work, ceramic would work. You know what? A hardwood would work. You know, all sorts of things would work. I did find when I went to Layered Plastics to get some things that you should ask when you're picking through the scrap bins. You know, a little piece of something like that. You know, I thought, oh, it's white, it's the right size, it's scrap, and it's like it was Teflon or something, or you know, and it was like $10 versus like the real plastic one, which is like I don't know, plastic, and was like $3 or $4. So I clamped this down. Let's see. You need a drill press. You really do. You can't drill stones, anything, any little holes with diamond drill bits without a drill press. You really need to do a quick up and down motion. You need it to be directly where you're working. You need to not use a lot of pressure, and these drill bits burn out really fast. The drill bits I use after experimenting with lots of different drill bits and like checking every supplier around the country, and this is on your diagram, are Crystalite triple ripple diamond drill bits. They're fluted on the edges, so they it's not just a solid cylinder with some diamond crammed around it. The flutes help whisk away the material and also allows a little bit more lubrication in. They come in various sizes from, well, 4 sizes from 1.1 millimeter up to 2.1. I use almost exclusively the 2.1 millimeters. I find they last longer, they work better, it's a more desirable hole for most people. It's also what Mickey Lippy wanted all her holes drilled. And, but it allows the snake chain to go through it. Also, the smaller little drill bits, they burn out really fast. You just can't get that much diamond to stay that well on a tiny, thin little piece of metal. And you'll look at strands and strands and strands of drilled beads at a gem show, and you're like, well, how did they get those tiny holes in there, so quickly and cheaply? They use ultrasonic drills, which you can buy one, but if you can find a manufacturer in this country, they cost $5,000 new, and so all your little teeny tiny mass-produced holes are drilled in Hong Kong with ultrasonic drills. So since that's beyond most of our reach, I don't even have one, and I drill a lot. We stick with triple
What
ripples.
size was that again?
This is 2.1 millimeter. And they do burn out, and it'll depend on the hardness of the stone, the toughness of the stone you're working with, and I also believe just the quality of the batch of drill bits that you got. I've had one drill bit that I was able to drill 20 holes in. I've had one drill bit I was able to drill half a hole in the same material. Some materials I can get easy and regularly 10 holes per drill bit. Some materials, depending on the thickness of the hole, I'm getting hardly any. I've had beads that I've made where it took 4, 5, 6, even 7 drill bits to make like a 3/4 inch hole through agate or something. And basically, that's just par for the course. I've tried everything, and it don't get much better than that with diamond. And so when you look at my beads, and you go, this is a little expensive, and I say, it's a thick, hard hole. You'll understand.
Are they all use one length of drill, or are they different?
All these 4 kinds of drill bits and the 4 sizes of the Crystalite triple ripples come in one length. And you generally want to chuck them as far up as they'll go unless you're drilling a longer hole. I talked about draining kits. Crystal Cut is a wetting agent that you can buy from different lapidary suppliers. It's on the front page of your diagram. It's a wetting and cooling agent. You can mix it with water, and ostensibly it increases the lubricating factor of your water and makes your diamond drill bits last longer. I sometimes use it, I sometimes don't. Haven't really been able to tell a huge difference, but it is something that you can do to try and expand the life of your diamond. And it also has a rust inhibitor. Diamond core drills are like these, and these are good for drilling larger holes. They're nice because they have tons of diamond on the side, so when they quickly burn out on the end and you can't drill holes in, I'll show you all sorts of other things you can do with them. So that's one of the reasons I don't throw away all this stuff. I can't ever drill any more holes with these, but there's still plenty of diamond left on the side. And one of these days I'm going to find somebody who really wants these, or I'm going to start carving or doing something strange, that I'll need lots of things with diamond just on the side of little bits. And if anybody wants these to go home and like carve or, engrave or something, you can take a couple of them. So you can drill larger holes. These are about the nicest ones I've found, and you can get those at Rio, and you can get a little set of them. They're not really cheap, and if you're drilling hard materials, they will go out quickly. A better thing for getting a larger hole I found is drilling a smaller hole and then enlarging it. One of the things I found is that it's easier to expand something than to force your way through something. And especially since there's lots of diamond on the edges of all these things after the end is burnt out, it makes it easier. Let's flip the page. Well, it's labeled page 2, but the third page is back on drilling. It's a lot of what we've already talked about, but I'm going to start doing it. Yeah, probably set a good example and wear some safety gear. Although I'll tell people I have safety contacts. I also think I have really tough corneas from wearing contacts for 15 years because stuff just hits me in the eye. I'm like, ow. So, dummy out some little drill bits.
Where did you get the drill press?
I got the drill, this is a regular Fordham drill press, and you can get it from any place that sells Fordham stuff and accessories. And what I did, this is the reason I had to bring my own table in, is because I needed to have a Tupperware underneath me, and I needed the setup. So I just went to the hardware store, bought this. It wasn't perfect, and I actually tightening it down broke off my little thing, so I can no longer make it go up and down. But I can unscrew it in the bottom and raise and lower it that way. And mostly what I do is I raise and lower my handpiece, which I'm probably going to do now. So you check, and generally you want to make sure that your drill bit doesn't touch your drilling table, because one of the cardinal rules of drilling through something is you don't want to drill all the way through something. If your drill bit reaches your table, you may underestimate how far you are through some material and go all the way. And if you go all the way, you get breakout. Breakout leaves you nasty little chips on the other side. So it's always much better to not go all the way and come through on the other side. And that can be a little bit tricky, but I'm going to show you how to do that. So what are we going to start with? Let's start with some glass. And a little safety feature is little rubber finger cots. I use these when I'm doing something that I'm afraid of. And I'm afraid of shattering glass. Because if anything happens to these, I'm unemployed for however long it takes to heal. I'm really not afraid of the diamond. I'm really not afraid of breaking stones. I am afraid of breaking glass. And I work with cuts and stuff in my fingers all the time, and I must have really mineral-rich blood. Because sometimes I'll be just working there with my getting ready for the conference, cut my knuckle, and I'm just bleeding into the water, and it won't clot, and I'm like, okay. I don't need them on that hand because I'm not going to be holding anything with that hand. This is the best vise I've found. Fingers. Like I said, I fold everything when I'm drilling it. I've never drilled my finger. The only real accidents I had is the first year or two that I was doing lots of this was either I applied too much pressure or I had a bad a weakened drill bit, and the drill bit bent while it was in the stone, and suddenly, clenched between my fingers, I had a hard little rock bent at an angle, whipping around at 15,000 RPM. And I cannot believe that I didn't shatter my finger digits. It felt like I shattered my finger digits, but I didn't.
And the foam was just an armrest.
The foam was just an armrest, yes. Because it was really uncomfortable doing like that and having my thing. And you can, I found lots of just little tricks. Because sometimes I'll be drilling for hours. Does anybody have a pencil I can borrow? A spare one? I'll need it in just a minute. Check our flow. There we go. Yes, we go. Okay.
Did you use a pen or a colored pencil?
Just a regular lead number 2 pencil. School pencil. Oh, thanks, got one. Oh, it's gonna get dirty.
It's all right.
All right.
It's dusty over
Oh, so once you get enough water in there, so it starts cooling, and then you spit.
So it's a siphon.
It's a siphon, yeah. So I get a constant flow of water. You can just take it. I find for stones that aren't really polished or smooth, a pencil works great. Generally, you also want to drill before you polish or smooth something, because if your drill bit slides around or something, you're going to get scratches on it, and you want to be able to take those out. And it's always nice to take them out in the process rather than going back and doing it again. So let's just mark a little spot on there. I hold it there. I line up my, this is glass, yeah, we're going to do glass first. This is Julie Mahallison Special Scrap Glass. And the nice thing about drilling glass is, it's a good way to start, is that you can see what your progress is. So you line up your bit with your hole, then go really fast, up and down. I'm not using a lot of pressure. See, I'm about halfway through. You can go farther. The thing is, the farther you get in there, the less water and lubrication's getting in there, the more heat is building up. Then this is really easy to do, and I don't quite need it to do it on this, but it makes a good demonstration. What I do to make sure I effectively come through on the other side is I take a drill bit, I stick it in, and let's imagine I can't see it. So I have a line sticking in there. I just take my pencil and continue that line straight across, and overlap the edge just a little bit. And then I do the same thing on the other side. Continue all the way down. And then when I get over here, I draw it across. And then I eyeball, depending on how irregular it is, I look at the plane of that. And generally, you know that you drilled in the center on this side and you drill on the center on this side. But if by accident you came in over here, you want to make sure it lines up, because if you drill through the middle, suddenly you've got, things going like that, and that ain't going to work. And then you suddenly start enlarging it and making a big hole. So we line it back up. Now, when I get all the way through, I can also realize that it's not an absolute perfect match. It might be off by, a tiny 1/2 millimeter or less, but it creates a little gap in there. And that's when you can use, it doesn't matter if it's a new drill bit or not, put your drill bit in, and you can move your piece back and forth a little bit, and this you can go up and down, and you're just sort of routing out the edges. Also, I always keep a little snippet of snake chain and put it through and see how it's hanging. This is just a piece of glass. It's just, but pass that around and pass it back. I don't care. If people really want to look at glass, but let's see. Oh, this will be another good demonstration for this technique. Now let's say I've got a weird shape, you know, and I want to drill something through this and it's angled. It's not going to sit there perfectly flat. I bought these back when I was doing a little bit of silversmithing, and they're little sanding belts, and you just squish them down and you can move the sanding belt around and stuff. They're nice, you know, you can use them to sand. I use them as perfect little wedges for my drilling. So let's say I want to drill across there. I'm going to mark where I want my hole. And someday I might find something better than this, but for now this works well for me. And I probably won't be using these for sanding anymore because I've got holes in some of them. I hold my stone or my piece there. I'm going to move my table back a little bit because my piece is hanging out over the edge. I just use this little wedge in there to hold it upright. So I'm doing it like that. So I want the hole to go this way, right, up and down. So I can't drill with it lying flat.
Right.
So I use this, and it creates a wedge, and it supports my bead. So stick that under there. And make sure your water's flowing right there. Eyeball it, draw across. I mean, on this one I can see my hole. I can see right through it, but, you know, mark it. And if a pencil's not working or what you're doing, an indelible marker or something works. Also, you can now get whiteout pens, which are nice, and it's just like, it works like a pencil, and you squeeze it and you can put a dab of white stuff there. And generally with just a little flow of water on it, once it's dried, it won't wash off until it'll stay on there long enough for you to do it. And once I go through, I continue going all the way through to line up the holes and to route up that edge. I'm going to drill some holes in the stones, and then I'm going to show you how to drill holes in beads. Let's do a soft stone to begin with. These are just nasty old chunks of uvarvite garnet. I was making uvarvite garnet piece, and I decided these weren't good enough to continue, but they're great demo things. And it's a soft stone, and then we'll go on to a hard stone. Mark your little thing. I'm going to go all the way through this one and show you breakout. Too soft a stone, it didn't show breakout very well. But you can see I went all the way through, and by not meeting up, you know, normally I will want this point to stick straight up because that'll be the top of the bead, and it's going to hang at an angle. Where's that little slice of agate? This one I can probably show you burnout or breakout and burnout, because this is a slice of Brazilian agate, and this bit might just bite it here. Probably. I mean, it's a new bit, and they only went through glass, so maybe not. But with a harder stone, I'm going to probably use even lighter pressure, less time down there, to go up and down. Or I'll get impatient, and I'll say, it's not going anywhere. And I'll think, oh, it's burnt out. And then I'll just start chucking drill bits left and right, and then I'll realize, wait a minute, earlier I left this up so it wouldn't go all the way through. So I can't show you breakout. Now we're going to break out. If we haven't already burned out. Or maybe we'll break out and burn out simultaneously, and there'll be a little flash of fire and everything. You can see it took out a whole little chip of stone all the way around it. I'll touch that around. That's what you don't want to have happen. That's why you come in from both sides. Now, you may be asking, if I'm doing something that's like flat like that, and I want to be right in the center, how do I make sure that I line up my hole? You know, because it's like, well, I'm putting it there. Do I draw the line that way? There's actually another little trick I developed. And will this lead us into the next thing? Yeah, it should lead us into the next thing. We find a hole, or we make a hole in our drill table that what I do is I drill a hole in my table. And I do this also for my beads. Yeah, I make a guide.
Oh, I got some.
There we go. Lower the drill down with it. If you have, you know, a nice little plastic or whatever it is table, you can drill a hole into it. I'm trying to step on the outlet. Ew. That hole is filled with like crud from all my previous drilling. And then you can stick your little, this is just an old drill bit that I went to the edge of my grinders and I ground off an end of it. So it's the same thickness as a drill bit. And if you want to make sure it doesn't wobble, the best thing is to drill a hole that's a little bit smaller. You know, because if I use a 2.1 millimeter drill bit to drill the hole and then put the edge of a 2.1 drill bit in there, it'll wobble a little bit. So I use a 1.8 and then drill in there. Stick your little peg in there. And what you can do is you can drill your hole first. I don't really want to get to that one. This will be good. Now this one isn't going very well or very fast, considering that this is just glass. Which means that it might have given up the ghost since I abused it on that piece of agate. However, another thing I do is a lot of times when I'm drilling a hard stone, the drill bit will stop drilling very quickly, and I'll look at it, and the end isn't all burnt out. Where did that bottle of all the... Oh, okay. If you look at a burnout drill bit, it's shiny on the end. There's nothing left on it. And there might be a little pit or something, and it's just all blown out. You can, if you want to take these and pass them around, you can always get a blown out drill bit out there. But sometimes you'll still see that there's diamond on it, and you'll think, oh gosh, that might still be good. I got one of these from Rio recently, and it's supposed to be a dressing stone for your drill bits to clean them out. So you just can hit that on there and continue on. I haven't found that it really does all that much, but I thought I'd get one just in case. But it might still be good for softer stones, and so I have bad bits for softer stones. So a lot of times I'll be drilling agate, get just a little bit of a way, it'll stop going so far, but there's still diamond on it. Rather than like forcing it or trying to, you know, burn it out or just throwing it away, I'll save it in my bad bits for softer stones, and, you know, maybe it'll have another life. Those are $1.57 each if you buy 36 or more. And I always buy at least 36. And that is the cheapest I've found them anywhere. Some places will charge you as much as $4 for one of those bits, which is why I understand people's frustration when they spend $4 for one and then send it home or go home and it's not going anywhere. get most of the way through, and let's say I can't see that, and I take my little stick, my little peg, stick it in the appropriate hole. And that's not it. And then I can just set the side that I already drilled right on that hole. Okay? So I'm setting it right on there. It's wobbling a little bit. If it does wobble, don't worry. Just sort of wobble it all the way around and pick the center. And then when I get the way through, sometimes I just pick my piece up and route it out that way. You know, because I don't want to go all the way through and hit the end of the steel, because that'll
ruin your
yeah, that'll ruin my bit.
That's a good one, it's right under.
Yeah, see, I just drilled a hole into my table,
Very neat.
and then stuck a little peg in there and made sure that it's lined up. So that's another way of lining up your holes. And I want to show you quickly how to re-drill beads.
Is
So let's,
that piece of plastic soft in there? It looks like it's moving.
oh,
Or
and
is
it's
that
just
the bench?
it's just the bench and the fact that it's on the Tupperware is uneven
Oh,
underneath. What I've done here is this was purely accident. It is sort of soft because one time I was re-drilling one of Mickey's beads and it got stuck on the drill bit and started spinning so fast it made an indentation in there, a little cup. And I realized that's perfect. That's what I need to set my bead on. So when I'm drilling something round like that and I don't want it to wobble and stuff and I want to line it up, there we go.
How long does that last?
This will last quite a while. This is, 2/3 of the way full, and, it's just a strain of water coming out of there, a little stream. And then when I'm done, this water's still good, and I just lift this up so it stops straining, dump that water in there. So if you want to re-drill a bead, let's say you buy some commercial beads that already have little teeny holes in them, and you want to string them on snake chains. Are you spying on me? I'm like, you're going to go back and start doing this for Mickey so she doesn't have to be doing it. She works for me. I'm like, aha, she's always wanted to know my secret.
I can't.
Okay.
Mickey bought the tape for the machine.
So I'm lining up my hole here.
That's funny, Virginia Causey went through that too. She goes, don't you tell Mickey this.
No, we can tell me everything. She's told everyone about me, so I can tell everyone about Julie. Again, I want to off. So I've got my bead sitting upright, my hole's lined up. I hold onto my bead, I make sure my water's right there. And the little hole that's already in it is lined up with the drill bit. This goes a lot easier because we've already got a hole in it and the very center of the drill bit isn't pushing against anything. And again, I said it's easier to widen things than it is to start from scratch. So turn it over. Boom. And then to make sure that it's going to move freely on a chain. Alright.
You
Now-
go all the way through on that without breakup?
No, you'll still get breakout because it's just a little hole on the other end. Yeah. Now, that's a good segue. We'll move on. Our last thing on drilling stones is sometimes you have breakout or chipping, or your drill bit will swirl around the edge of your hole a little bit when you're starting, and you want to clean that up, or you just don't want a straight hole. You want your chain to curve up a little bit. So if you want to clean up your holes, or if you came through when you were routing it out, you realized you were a little bit off, so one hole looks sort of like double hole, or a hole and a half, and the other side's a perfect little circle, and then the one side has an oogie, it's like an oval.
Whole new
goofy.
vocabulary.
It's a whole new vocabulary. Yeah. I was
That
talking
is
to,
spelled with 2 O's?
yeah, I was talking to Barbara Miner, and I was telling her, I'm like, I'm the hippie stone cutter at the Snag Conference with the bad display, but the really cool stones. And she's like, oh yeah, I think it's really good that you show that you don't have to be a grown-up to have a job. And I mean, people still are incredulous that I actually make a living doing this, but I do. This is a cone. This is a diamond cone. You can get these from, Rio and other different lapidary suppliers. I'm going to start with a new one. And you can use cones, you can use tapers, you can use balls. What's that little ball? Because I'm going to show you how to enlarge a hole. Okay. So first we're going to taper our edges. And this is real simple. So let's say we want these holes, not so whatever. We just want to make them larger on the end. Put your water right up where your piece is, and you put the tip of your cone in your hole, not pressing against it, but just lined up. And then you can just move your piece up there and rotate your piece around the cone. Now this is a really, evarvite's a really soft material, so that makes a larger hole, and it makes a taper around
You're
it.
really beveling it, right?
You're really beveling it, yeah. You see here, I'm beveling it on the inside. And that'll, help change the way it hangs.
Sure.
It won't have that rough, sharp, up and down edge to go on, right? And then, and you can, that applies for everything. You can use tapers or even pear shapes, like this, or rounds. Real quickly, I want to show you how to enlarge a hole. Generally, if I want to enlarge a hole, I take a round bit, a round diamond burr it's in its course. It's like a 120 or something. That's larger than the hole. I'm not going to take like a 2.1 millimeter hole. Like I want to make this hole bigger. I'm not going to take a 2.1 millimeter hole and try and put a 4 or 5 millimeter ball through it. But you can take like a 3 millimeter ball and easily go through it and make a 3 millimeter hole. And then you can like route out the edges a little bit, and you can pretty quickly get to where you can put the 5 millimeter ball through it. Again, put your water right there. Line up your hole. Let's see, we'll probably want to, you can do this up and down motion. It's a little bit easier. It's almost just like drilling, except you're enlarging the hole. See, now we have a much larger hole there. So if you wanted to use a thicker snake chain or whatever, and I could keep routing this out more with the diamond, and I could, and if you want to make it even easier, you can take your cone and route it out a little bit, bevel it on either side, which makes it even more easier for your ball to go through, because it's got a little cup, a larger cup to sit in, and more water will flow down there. The more lubrication you have, the better. Did I mention speed? Most of these diamond bits work best at, between 10 and 20,000 RPMs. So you do want it to go fast. It's like when you're drilling metal, you're going, it's like when I was first drilling metal, I was trying to drill metal like I knew stones, and I was going like, and they're like, no! I was like, why? Is it faster better?
How about higher speed than the drive?
I don't think so. The instructions say, metal bonded diamond drill, speed 5,000 to 20,000 RPM. You can pass these around. It's pretty much the same stuff that I already said, but it comes in every little packet of crystallite diamond drill bits. Have I talked about everything on stones, enlarging holes? rubber finger
Might
cuts.
break the jet.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go to, are there any more questions on drilling stones real quick?
Yes.
Yeah.
What are you just setting it on anything, or are you just holding it in your hand?
Sometimes I'm just holding it in my hand.
And the diamond works so quickly that you don't really feel any resistance.
I have strong fingers.
Is there any, for amateurs,
Yeah.
is there any appliances that you can use to hold those stones? You're timid about getting your fingers so close to the drill?
No, you need to not get timid.
Not me personally.
Yeah.
You know.
Like I said, there are some things that you can get. You can get little vices. I'm going to show you this pearl vice that I got for next for where you're drilling pearls. And you know, you could create a little device or something to hold things, but generally you want to know what's going on in your stone, and you want to know what's going on in your pressure. And I really find that holding them helps the most. And you know, if you've got rubber finger cuts on, you know, you've got a mil and a half of rubber, you know, and you're not, and the important thing is you're going slow, you're using light pressure. The only way you just don't want to shake. You know, the only way that you're going to drill into your fingers is if you move your finger under there. And I wouldn't practice on, you know, I would get bigger beads than this to practice on, but I drill smaller beads than this. You know, I don't know what these are like.
Can you feel the heat through the...
You don't want heat.
But
So,
can you?
if you feel heat, back
If you
off.
feel heat, you're way too using too much pressure and not enough water. If you feel heat, it's because your water's not flowing or you're using too much pressure, and you don't want that to happen. Stones are heat sensitive. It's not like metal can get hot and, you know, it's just like, ooh, it burned me. You can burn stones, and a lot of stones will just fracture or crack or even explode under heat. And when I say explode, I just mean go, you know, not like shrapnel. So you want to use high speeds, lots of water, light pressure, go slow, little up and down motions. Like you saw, I was using my finger on this. And you're certainly going to start out a lot slower and build up to figuring out your materials. Like if I'm drilling pyrite or mother or pearl or turquoise or something, I'll just be like, but if I'm doing agate, I'm like,
Tell me something, when you buy that drill press,
mhm.
do they give you all the stuff you need to attach it?
Oh yeah, it comes with, I didn't bring that because I think I could find it. It comes with a stand. Yeah, it comes with a stand. It's just, and it's got a nice smooth shaft and a base that you can also bolt the base down. But I wanted a flat surface underneath my drill press, not this lumpy little tiny base.
That's pretty cool.
Do
Yeah.
you like the spring action that if the lever will go up when you release it? Because a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah, I do. You do want the lever to
You do
go
want
up.
that.
Yeah, because you don't want it hanging down there where it's not supposed to be.
have to control it.
Right, and you want to control it, and you don't want to apply constant direct pressure to it. You want it to go up and down quickly. So it's nice because otherwise all you're doing is pulling down like that, and it's going up by itself. Whereas if otherwise you got to pull and push. So I do like this, and I also like the fact that I'll show you some other stuff.
It works marvelously on metal too.
Yeah, I mean it was made for metal, and the reason I did this was because I wanted to have my flow-through system with lots of water. Also, having this nice little steel base underneath everything was eventually gonna
It's a lot easier.
rust and be messy.
Can you put the doping material in there if you wanted to hold something that was small enough, or you just,
yeah.
like you were talking about being afraid to...
Yeah, you could dop something
And it wouldn't come up?
no, the dopping stuff is really, really strong. Here, let's see if I can do that. Here I have a thick tiger eye cab that I sanded off the edge last night so I can make sure I knew how to do what I'm going to do next. Because I'd never done it before, and I'm like, I don't look like a fool when you show them this thing. So, yeah, let's try that real quick. And then we got to move on because there's a lot more stuff to cover, and this is more than a drilling workshop.
You want something underneath this stuff as well, right? Even though you're not going on to it.
Right. Adjusting my height. Let's see how this works. Am I going to go space to it? Yeah. See, we got the just to show you that it won't come up like this way. I'll drill half of it. If it comes off, I'm I didn't, actually, I dopped this stone well over 10 years ago, so it's old dop is the excuse. No problem. It held it, I didn't have to hold it, you know, it's flat, but you know, you're going to want to make sure that your stick is oriented correctly so that you can get your,
Yeah.
that's a glamorous life, isn't it?
Could you also just put the dumping material onto your little flex or plastic
You could,
base?
yeah, but then when you want to drill the other side, you've got to take it off. Oh, I didn't tell you how to take things off dop sticks. Throw them in the freezer. Put them in a little baggie, put them in the freezer, let them there for an hour, hour and a half, and they should pop off. If they don't pop off, just take a utility knife and gently under the corner don't put pressure on your stone, but just push down and they'll pop off and then you scrape off.
Don't reheat it.
No, you don't reheat it. You get it cold and it gets real brittle. And you know, you can sometimes just pop off like that.
And then you can remelt that dop.
This is really old dop. Yeah, you can melt this. You just twist it and break it off and throw it in your dot pot and reuse it. Thank you. Okay. Well, I still have this out. I'm going to show you.
You could do something like that for half drilling. Like if you're gonna
Yeah,
have
you
to-
can certainly do that for half drilling. You could like dop a whole bunch of things on your little plate, and just move your plate along.
Would it have to be dry first? I mean, you have to start with it in fresh, kind of like the one you just pulled out of the drawer.
Yeah, you don't want it would have to be warm and dry. Let's see, this. I'm going to show you a little thing about shaping stones. Check that out. I need to reposition my siphon like that. Okay. Now we're gonna. Before I go on to drilling pearls, I want to just finish up with what I need the water and this table and everything for. So we're going to skip over pearls and go to shaping of stones. I saved these diamond core drills. This one is totally smooth on the bottom. It will never core again. So I'm going to put that in there. And this base plate I have is just another piece of some fancy kind of plastic. It's cheaper than the $18 Teflon. But it's hard. I mean, I was trying to drill it or cut it up to size with a hacksaw, and it really took a little while. Yeah, it might be cutting board stuff. I just took a hand drill, and drilled 2 holes in there. And the holes are, the little hole is a little bit larger than this. So it'll set down in there just a little bit. And the bigger hole is just a little bit larger than this one. So I don't want to drill into the stone, but I want the end of this lower than the table. Let's actually use the larger one because it'll be more impressive. I love ripping up stones. Oh yeah?
On that number 30 handpiece,
Get a quick relief.
no, where the top of the curve there,
This, yeah?
take a saw, cut it all the way around,
Uh-huh.
and then take the key
Mm-hmm.
and get a drill, a
Uh,
file
yeah.
handle.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen those.
Pop that into there, and it's so much faster.
Okay. I've been waiting for them to make a quick release handpiece that'll fit in
Yeah, but
here.
you do that with the number 30, it's just, you don't have to find that little
Okay.
area, you can do it all the way around the drill.
Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna. Oh yeah. Oh. So cut this off all the way around.
And use a file handle?
I
for the-
actually go to this notch right here.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to go too far back.
Okay,
I
so
use
just
this
take
notch
this
right
up.
there. You just
Okay.
cut it all the way around
Okay.
with the jeweler's saw.
Okay. So cut this up to this notch, take it off all the way
It just
around
saves
there.
you so much time having to
Oh,
deal with that little
that's a great
slot.
idea.
Yeah, you get 360 degrees, you can just run in the hole.
Okay. Helpful hints. So, I've lined up the big hole underneath the drill press, and then I'm gonna plant my table down. Now we're getting into the stone.
David, while you got helpful hints, Joe Wood was here last year and he makes these for his sledgehammer.
Oh.
So I'll have to show you what to make yourself. It's so nice. This is all
You can use a wood or plastic file handle.
Yeah. Really nice. Well, you take the pin out
Here's my fancy little stone wedge.
and then round it back.
Okay. Those three shapes are here. So I've got my useless core drill in there. I've got my water going again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this down into the hole so it goes just a little bit down below the hole. Then I have this high-tech stone granite wedge. It's made out of Norwegian moonstone. And I'm sticking it in there so it doesn't come up. And I need a little extra, a lapis wedge. There we go. Doesn't have to be, but... So what we have here is a diamond cylinder right on our table that has lots and lots of diamond all up and down the side. It's rotating around so you're not getting a constant pressure of diamond on the end like you do when you're drilling. And let's say, it's burning in the back. We have a little broken cap here, and it's got a really skinny knife edge all the way around, and it broke there, and I was like 14 when I tried to make this thing, and I made it too thin. And I'm like, well, how could I use that now? Well, I could maybe make a teardrop or something out of it if it was just the right size. So I'm gonna these.
Here you go.
Thank you. I'm just setting the stone on the table, and I'm going up, getting my diamond going, and I'm going up on the edge. And I'm shaping the stone. I mean, it's a little rough, and I'll show you sanding later, but
You could do glass that way.
you could do glass this way. This is also great for inlay, for doing inlay pieces and shaping them. This, I don't think I've used this one before. As it gets used and used on harder stones, the diamond will wear down a little, and it won't be so aggressive. You won't get such a rough edge. So this had a chipped end, and I'm just, taking all that off.
So you're saying you don't want brand new drill?
Well, this isn't brand new. The end of it's worn off, so I can't core drill with it anymore. But there's tons of diamond on the side.
It's okay to have an aggressive.
Yeah. So it's I mean, this is Laguna agate. This is a very hard stone, and it's ripped right through. And on a softer stone like this, it'll just eat it. Speed is important here. It's mostly important to have your constant water pressure. And this had a broken end. It had a chip right off the end of it, and I smoothed it out. And I'd want to do a little bit more shaping and stuff on that.
Can I ask you what you would do if, I do these, I sand them down or use it to my grinding wheel, but very often I buy pairs for earrings and one's higher than the other.
Okay.
So is there an easier way to do it than what I do?
Yeah, that's in the next section.
Oh, good.
Sticker cabbage on it.
Yeah, they'll make one sticker.
Yeah.
You have to put more backing.
Yeah, the
Oh, put
easiest
it
way.
back to the
Yeah,
More backing.
right.
Bevel.
The easiest response is to put more backing on
I
it,
did the treasure
on the shorter one. Thinning stones is sort of hard to do without a flat lap. Okay, any questions about that? Oh, let's see. Actually, I do want to show you one more. I didn't show you Druzy's. Oh, I just took this. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. I just have to do this again because I'm going to do Druzy's real quick. So right this back. It's the same process. Let's say you got some scrap Druzy and you want to make, you want to set that, but it's got a really rough edge there. It's all choppy and rough on the edges, or you bought some Druzy from a stone cutter and you broke it and you want to reuse it. You can do it right here, the same thing. No, water's a good thing.
Only wondering.
And the water.
What's something special?
The Druzy means little teeny tiny crystals.
Oh.
So a lot of people are using Druzys in their jewelry.
How hard are you?
Not very hard. Pardon me?
The core drill doesn't work for you.
The core drill does the work for you, and it really works fast. I left a little bit of the rough edge on this one.
Are you afraid of getting too close with it?
I mean, if I had my, since a lot of the stuff I'm working with here is new, I'm not going to show you on this. Also, I'm not really familiar with this stuff at high speeds. But so this will work for any Druzys. If you want to do Brazilian agate Druzys, if you want to do Uvarovites, you can reshape the edges on them. Or if you make your bezel cup just a tiny bit too small. But I'll show you something else that's even better for that because it's not so aggressive. And also, I'll show you how to finish those edges in case you want them nicer looking.
What about putting a bevel?
What's about what?
Putting a bevel, a little bit of a bevel on the
You could turn your stone. You don't have to have it sitting on the table. You can do the same process with your bit up here and work it at an angle. You can use this just like a diamond core that you're grinding on. You could rock it. You can make indentations in it if you like.
Well, Druzys, do you usually put a bevel on it, or you use?
It depends on my clients. Some of my clients want their Druzys straight up and down edges. Some of them want bevel. So see, sometimes when I'm making my fetish beads, which I think I have a few of you see at the show. Did I mention I'm a vendor at the conference? From Rio, it's like I don't know how much money, but more than I think is necessary. And it comes with all these different little. It's a vise, and it's got these little heads in it, which I'm not sure how they come out because I've never changed it because I hardly ever grow pearls. But it holds the pearl in these little cups. Like that. So this just screws in there. You put your pearl in here. And this is the fancy way of doing it. You could also, just like I did before with my little indentation here, set it in there, hold it with your fingers, and do it that way. This is, well, when I taught my drilling workshop last year, this was my excuse to buy another toy. You don't have to do this, but if you're worried about holding something small,
There's no mystery in drilling
Yeah.
pearls.
there's really no mystery. I've drilled pearls with diamond drill bits, but you can get these special pearl drills, which are like little paddles. Let me see if I can pass it around. It's a different thing, and I don't know. I think it's just something that the pearl industry developed to like make themselves more important.
Money.
Right. You can use metal drilling drills. The nice thing about this is that it does line up your holes.
Well, if you're making holes bigger, and if there already is a hole,
Right. You can just
the
use
undrilled pearl I can see
You
using
can
that.
just use a bead reamer.
just use what?
Bead reamer to make a hole bigger. A diamond bead.
Yeah. So this, and the nice thing about this is it lines up your hole. So.
So what about cooling? We don't.
Oh, there's this like little pearl case.
Right.
Another time turned out as burlap.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would,
Like the dentist, too.
And then you can just. I think this hole is supposed to be like guard. Burn it out. See, there's nothing to it. But you can get these little kits and experiment with them. You can also buy other kind of little pearl drills, and
But now,
or
if you were to hold it under that, the way you did this, I've never drilled it for, so bear with me. When you were,
Did you go all the way through?
when
No, I
you were
didn't.
drilling the holes in the stone, you would want to hold the pearl under the water, or not under
yeah, the
So it's
water's not
basically
going to hurt
the
pearl.
same thing? You drill it
Yeah.
the same way?
Yeah, you drill it the same way.
You don't have to get that big round.
Right. The nice thing though is that this comes with little sets of vice heads, so you can drill very tiny pearls. These things fit inside of here, like that, and like this will hold like a 4 or 5 millimeter pearl, and there's tiny little, drills in there, and you can use other drills.
how much was it?
I don't know, the catalog's right there. I think it was like 30 or 40 bucks. But it's a
Are you
sweet little
still
vice.
only going part way into the pearl
Yeah,
and turning
yeah,
it
you
then?
can come through on either side of this.
What if you're in odd shape problem?
Then go back to, just the old, use an old diamond drill bit, and just the way I was drilling the stones. Yeah, there's really, pearls are soft. It's shell, it's no big deal.
Aren't there some stones in like shells that are toxic?
Yeah, you do want to use some water and not breathe through the drill and wear a face mask. But when you hear toxic, it's like your household cleaners are toxic. You don't want to, you shouldn't be breathing your Clorox either. But you don't go around going, oh God, I'm pouring Clorox into my washer. And it's like, I don't want anybody to go home and think, he cut a little piece of malachite, and I've heard malachite is toxic, he endangered all of it. Yeah.
Oh, but you're working over it all the time.
Yeah.
Take precautions.
I also smoke cigarettes.
Oh, forget it. While you're drilling.
Right, I do wear a respirator face mask at home. And I'm going to try and quit smoking as soon as this conference is over.
Sure, what I'll say.
So we've done the reshaping of stones. Now comes this neat little tricky stuff. Oh, God. This is a whole new kabang. I made this. I bought this, which is a little thing that holds your flex shaft horizontal, right? And then I realized I need this in there, in my perfect little hole in the middle of my desk where I do all my work. And rather than figure out a way of putting this in there, I went back to my old, because I thought, well, I can drill, I can cut this bigger, or I can cut a channel in there, and I'm like, no, I don't want to disturb the wah of my working area. The feng shui of Mr. Sargent's silversmithing desk that he built Cranberry Cove Rock Shop in Cranberry Cove, Michigan back in 19 God knows when.
You mean it was in Cranberry Portage? Is that nearby, by the way?
Yeah, in southern Michigan?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. I grew up in Jackson, Michigan.
Such a great name.
So this just comes out. You see, I just had that bolted in there, right? So what I did was I went to the plastic supply and bought I don't know, plastic.
Don't.
And thank you.
Call it Delrin.
Delrin. Oh, we'll call it Delrin. Hi, Delrin. And I drilled a hole in there, and it was really hard to drill. And then I just cut off a piece of this and glued it in there with liquid super glue. I drilled a hole in here, and just put a little piece of bolt in there that's the same size as the one on the end of this. So, presto changeo, I have my little workstation right where I'm comfortable with it being.
Did you get into a lot of trouble as a little kid taking things apart?
No, I couldn't get in trouble because I was just always in the basement cutting stones. My parents bought me used lapidary equipment when I was like 11 or 12. You know, they bought me silversmithing tools, and I took classes from the old retired people in the rock club, and my dad took classes with me. And my dad became president of the rock club, and everyone was just like, I think it's so good that your parents got you involved in this. I'm like, sorry, I joined the rock club when I was in 8th grade. They joined after I did. Dad was too involved in scouting. When I decided I didn't want to go Boy Scout for the rest of my life, I'm like, I like the rock club. So, let's see, what am I going to shoot first? So this is my little clamp, and I made this Tupperware sheet of plastic, clear, I don't know, plastic that you buy, and you cut it with, you know, your metal shears and drill little holes in here and wing nut it in, okay?
Very technical, very high tech.
Thank you. I'm gonna run it this way first.
Real ground mixing, that'll be about $150.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna stick that most of the way through because I want it to stick out a little bit. This is my little shield. Move this over here. Put it down in here.
Not back up and bring your hand feet so you can get to the little cutout to get your...
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm just realizing I supposedly have half an hour left and I have a lot to cover for you guys. So. Multiple ways. Next we're talking about resurfacing and repairing of stone. There's a number of ways of doing this. First I'm going to show you, basically going to show you some of the different materials you can use for really chopping through stone. But mostly I want to spend most of this time on sanding. You can use Mizzy wheels. Mizzy wheels, you can buy any, you know, jewelry supply store or whatever. They're supposed to be used dry. They eat rocks. They're really coarse. You can take off lots of material. So that's one option for taking off a lot of material. Another option is like a 60 grit diamond like Mizzy wheel. This will just eat rocks, and it's brand new. Maybe we should just put this one for some minutes to just have a dramatic effect.
What does that little guy run?
This little guy runs about $40. This is just a diamond grinding wheel, and it's Oh, the other thing I want to tell you is another good supplier, not for the diamond drill bits, although they sell them, is Bombay Bazaar out of Cleveland, Ohio. If you look under lapidary equipment in the classified sections of Lapidary Journal, they will have like 20 little classified ads. And it's just some Indian guys that, you know, sell lapidary equipment at a discount. They don't have a storefront. It's all mail order. They only recently started taking Visa MasterCard. And, but boy, they have really cheap prices.
And what do you use them for?
I use them for, I got this diamond Mizzy wheel from them. I get my larger diamond belts and stuff. Basically what I would do is subscribe to like several different catalogs or compare. Rio, Alpha Supply, which is in Bremerton here, and Bombay Bazaar are some of the main ones. And I can get a lot of crystallite diamond products cheaper from Bombay Bazaar than I can from if I became a wholesale crystallite distributor. I mean, that's because they have a graded wholesale. So if you sell like $5,000 worth of stuff a year, you only get 20% off. But if you sell $500,000 stuff of stuff a year, you get 50%. Well, Bombay Bazaar it sells a lot. So,
You know this company called Lasco?
Lasco, yeah, I get a few things from them. I haven't been super impressed with the price. Their quality seems okay. Some things went through pretty quickly. I ran through it pretty quickly. Stand back. This thing's fierce, and I haven't used it yet. So. Keep that off. Let me find something else I can just chew on. Let's say I want to take, oh look, I drilled in the end and it broke off. So I want to take that whole thing off. Can you see that? Let's say I want to take down to this line. This is just going to eat this. Boom. I love new diamond. That's a feldspar, but this is granite, and this will do the same thing. Here, we'll chop up a hole in my granite wedge.
Do you go to Tucson?
Yeah, I generally go every year. This year I didn't go because I realized A, I didn't have any money, and B, I could go in my studio and cut rocks every day for the next 5 years and not run out of material. So I really didn't need to buy anything. So that's another option for reshaping stuff. We got mizzy wheels, we got diamond grinding wheels. You can get Craytex wheels. I think a lot of jewelers use these. I've used these, and I got this little kit when I was, 14, and I don't hardly ever use it. I don't think much of it. I've discovered a wonderful new thing. Dun, dun, dun. And I discovered this just in getting prepared for this class when I decided that what I really wanted to do was figure out a way to show you how to do some of the things I do with my diamond sanding belts. And I said, what we need are diamond sanding belts or diamond sanding discs in different grits, all the way up to fine, that I could use here. And I'd never seen them before, even though I've looked through Rio's catalog oodles of time. They now have 3M diamond abrasive drum mandrel bands, and they have the Hook It diamond discs. And I'm going to show both of those to you real quick, and you can pass this around. This is really nice. This is the drum mandrel. And I was thinking I would need a bunch of mandrels to have all the different things on so I could do quick changes. Actually, this works really well. It's the way it works is this nut screws down and tightens up and pushes on this little, I don't know, it's like neoprene. It's like a little rubber belt. So when you tighten it, it expands and it holds your little drum. And so it's a wonderful little thing. This is a 220 diamond mesh. I mean, I'm sure you all know that you want to go from, your lower grits are your most aggressive. That diamond grinding wheel was like a 60. So a 60 diamond grit is very aggressive. For your sanding purposes, you're mostly going to want to start out at like a 220 and work your way up. So this is a 220.
For polishing purposes?
This is still for sanding. We're going to get to polishing. Okay. Let me get some rocks here.
This is great for low impact noise work and not having such a high message being put in the space.
Yeah.
You want to do the diamond one
Oh, I want
here?
to show you
Here?
using a dot stick. Okay. That one is. Who's that part of it? Oh, I got it. So again, we're having our water running, we're having our water draining. Generally, I don't have this problem of stopping and starting with my drain, but so here we just are using this like a regular lapidary wheel and doing my sanding, and that's taking the scratches out that were put in by that really aggressive 60 grit. And this is like a brand new 220, so it's also working pretty quickly. These will slow down as they wear down. And you can, like earlier when we did the edges of this, like this was a broken chipped cab, and we roughed it out. Well, we can come back here now and sand them smooth. Also, you know, this is great, like I said, if you made that stone, if you made that bezel just a little too small, and your stone just needs like half a millimeter off that one corner, do this. Don't go make another bezel cut. I think that's just silly.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Are those these middle ones? The one
No.
that says diamond is this.
Yeah, those.
It's these? It
Those.
doesn't come in 220.
Yeah, doesn't it? Well, that's what we're working
Mesh?
on. 220 mesh?
Because the only one that says diamond is in the bottom.
Okay, 200. 200. Different companies have different standardizations. Some companies go 100, 200, 400, 600. Most traditional lapidary materials are 120, 220, 600, 800. So,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
they
Okay.
just.
That's the only part of it that said diamond, solid.
You can also, you don't even need to use, if you're just doing a minor touch-up or just taking a tiny bit off, you don't need to use this aggressive wheel or those diamond core drills on the table. You can do it just on this. This is a cab that's broken and chipped all the way around. It's silicated chrysocolla, and the chrysocolla on the edges didn't silicate, so it just broke off. And we're sanding it down. And smooth it out. I mean, I didn't go all the way on that bezel per ton. But you know, like on this one, just the tip broke off. And if I just wanted to like round that and still have a stone that I could set, just come down here, round that tip off. Or if I wanted a point, I could bring it down further on either side. Oh look, I'm starting to make a little shield. So, this is a great little technique. Now, to be even quicker, and since we're running low on time, I'm going to show you. This way. Oh, the other thing I was going to show you was you can use your little dop stick like this on it, and that's why we dopped. You know, I'm comfortable holding these things, but you can work your dop stick up and down. The thing is, because it's a small little curve, you really want to keep things moving. If you hold it there, it's going to put a curve in. You know, it's not a problem for me to hold something against a 6-inch or an 8-inch drum with this belt on, because the curve is like that. But this, you your curve like that instead of like that. So you'll have a lot more problems with putting little flats and little curves into things this way. The other handy dandy little thing is this little. It's on the next page in the catalog. It's called a hook it thing or whatever. This is a mandrel. This thing goes in. I don't know all the names of this. I just bought this last week because I thought it was so cool, and it's like I can show you how to do what I do on a tiny scale. It's got Velcro, and then we got all these little diamond discs. It's 60 and 120 and 220 or 200. I'm sorry, 120, 200, 400, 800, and 1800. And then.
So you can actually do stone polishing with small tools.
Yeah, yeah. This just fits in there like that, your little mandrel. You know, like I said, this is all your method. This isn't your technique. You know, you're not going to be able to just go home and like crank out a beautiful cab, but you could try. So.
You need what?
What? Thank you.
He loves chewing on that water.
I have a little pump in here. Generally this, as long as I'm generally working solidly at one task for an hour or more. I'm drilling mostly is what I do here. So I have a constant flow of water. And generally my bucket is hanging from the ceiling, so I don't get this. Oh, see, I can't put that there because it's going to vibrate off. There we go. Okay. So you want your water to flow right there. Let's see, this is a 60 grit diamond pad, brand new. Center it right on there. And then this is another way. You don't have to use the core drills, but it's an option. You don't have to use the Mizzy wheel, it's an option. Here we have a really rough edge. The thing about this, the drawback for this, is that it is a small work surface. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for using stones this size, but you can see I smoothed that whole thing down. I also put a little bevel on it, which is not the direction I wanted to go. But so you got to figure out which direction you're working in, and it'll just eat that right off. And then you can just,
The water, it'll still stick on even with the
yeah, because
water.
the Velcro, it's Velcro. They're
Oh,
hooks.
of course, sure,
Yeah.
okay.
Isn't that smart? Let's see, let's try and do this. So this little turquoise cabochon, turquoise is soft, so it's going to go quickly. And you don't want to work right in the center of your wheel because it'll put like little swirly scratches in. Like I said, this isn't perfect. This isn't, for doing big caps on. But if you just wanted to clean up something, or work on one side, or take a corner down and make sure that you polished your corner, you could do this. See, I'm able to hold the stone like this. I don't have to worry about my fingers getting in there. And if you're scared, you can hold it back here, but it's sort of awkward.
Are you holding it in the bottom quarter? Or where are you hitting the?
Well,
Like when you buff.
I'm
stay
generally,
low?
I'm staying sort of low
Yeah.
and on this side because it's turning clockwise.
Right.
And so I'm staying down here. I'm not staying right in the middle. But you can work anywhere near the bottom. You just don't want to work at the top because it'll pull it down. But this whole process right here is great for all sorts of different things.
What did I do?
I don't know. I think it's just a little off center and
Oh.
it swirled up and it makes a big
Visual
loopy.
effect.
Makes a visual effect. Look at, I'm just gonna center it. You don't want to go too fast because I think it will throw it. If you were going to be doing this, long term, or really working on something really intensely, I would probably get the little rheostat for your flex shaft so that you could have, when you're doing lapidary work, you sort of do want to have it at one continuous speed. So I'm working on this piece. Again, if I wanted to do, fix the tip of this bullet, I could, just work at it like this. And go on that. And also, any of these pieces that I was working on before, changing the edges, I could just go up and down around the edges and smooth them out and take out the scratches and just work my way up. And you want to keep checking. The really important thing is when you're doing lapidary work, it's important to wearing old, tight blue jeans because your stuff is always wet and you have to look at it dry to check on scratches. And wiping it off on your shirt doesn't work. Wiping it off on a towel doesn't work. Denim seems to absorb the perfect amount of water and the body heat. I'm serious. I think, and your body heat keeps it dry enough and warm enough And I could, honestly, I could not cut stones if I didn't wear dirty, tight blue
There has
jeans.
to be an and.
I know, a gap that or something. Because you just feel like, it's always wet, and then you need to dry it real quick and get it wet again. So it's just like blue jean, white, look, So let's go up to next step. So again, this is method. This is not a lot of technique. Checking. Also, if you have one part of your skin that's dry, skin is good for wiping off tiny bits of stuff. Centering that one. This is like a pre-polish. Now, I haven't used this long term. I don't know how it's going to hold up. If the Velcro starts to go, or if the rubber behind it will start to give. But the nice thing about it is now that you have the mandrel and the diamond discs, you can replace the diamond discs individually. I bought the kit. I'm sure that you could figure out a way to replace this little rubber backing and the Velcro yourself. You could buy self-adhesive Velcro at a fabric store. And so that's that little gimmick. What's next on my sheet? So again, the important things to know are you can use any or all of this. You can try the Kratex. I really prefer the diamond. I think you get better results. You want to go slow. Check your work your way up. You always want to have your water there. You don't want it, and you don't want to build up heat. Are there any questions about this resurfacing and repairing and shaping of stones before we go into a quick thing about polishing?
Mandrel, you have that on as a special one for the Velcro?
Yeah, this came with the kit. It's in the catalog. It's called the Hook It something or other, and this just snaps right out, and then the mandrel is sold with it. I mean, the mandrel's like $10, and these other things are like, I don't know. I think this whole little disc kit with the 6 or 7 discs, the mandrel and this part was $30, and then the little diamond drums with the mandrel that expands nice and easily. All you have to do is unhook it or unscrew it. Was $40, but you can see there's a lot more diamond surface on here, so you're paying more for the drums. But it's so cute and functional, and it's the same thing I use pretty much. These are diamond electroplate belts. What I'm waiting for them to come up with is diamond resin belts. The electroplate is really nice. They last a long time if you use them correctly, but I find that they don't take out the finest of scratches. And for what I use, from 220 on, I use Crystallite diamond resin belts, but they don't make them for little things like this. And they wear out a lot more quickly than these, but they put a really nice finish on. Any questions about this stuff before we move over to the buffer?
But you would use them with regard to
The Kratex? You know what? I would pick diamond over Kratex any day of the week. It's just I have the kit. I know people that use Kratex. It's certainly doable. But like I've had that kit for 15 years, and I don't know if I've ever really used it. But I've used these. Really? Oh yeah. Diamond is much faster, much cleaner. You get, I think, a better finish. For me, speed is important. I don't want to spend all my day on one little thing. I mean, technically, you could also in the Rio catalog, within a page or two of that, the kits for this, you could buy this 3M diamond paper and attach it to files. You can buy diamond sandpaper. So you could conceivably do this by hand with a sponge. But do you want it? Okay. Let's move over to the buffer real quick, and I have a few things I'm going to show you there, and I think we're right on time, right on schedule. Trickiest parts of this business. I experiment a lot with different stuff and different find that for what I do, I use a tin oxide with, but you know that only really works for your soft stones. But for your soft stones like turquoise, rhodochrosite, varisite, etc., it works really well. Oh, it goes like that. It goes on. That's a good thing to have. If you have a 2-speed buffer, you're even better off. Zan, you can have your stone on a dop stick, or you can have it loose. I'm not, because I didn't prep these stones all the way, I'm not going to be getting great polishes on these. But I can show you. You basically are just using a light touch, holding your stone against the buffer, and you're not building up a lot of heat. But see, turquoise is so soft that we're getting a polish on it, even though there's lots of gouges and grooves in it and stuff. So some of your stones, if you have a turquoise ring that's all scratched up, you don't necessarily have to go back and re-sand it. You can just buff it with Zam. And you can do you can also just hold your stones, because you don't want to build up a lot of heat. So that works for your soft stones.
The slow speed.
The Zam on the muzzle buff, I use it off. Well, I only have 1 speed on my buffer, and it's a high speed. So this is rhodochrosite. I'm applying a little bit more pressure because I wanted to get a little something on there, because this one wasn't prepped at all, but it's a soft stone, and we can get a little bit of a shine on there. I do. It's not going on. Okay. It just takes a while. Okay. I do tend to, after I polish my stones on my felt wheel at home, give them a quick buffing with Zam. One thing it does is it takes off my other polishes, and it helps give an extra. It's sort of like putting a buff luster on top of the polished luster, because the polished luster I do is built up with heat. Some heat when polishing is good, okay? But when I say heat, I don't mean warm. I mean heat. Hot, like out. Stones can certainly get warm. There's not a problem with getting the stone warm. It's getting the stone hot. I'm going to show you another little trick I learned from Howard House, who's this great old guy. He's an opal carver, and he demonstrates opal carving at the Inner Gem and Jewelry Show at Seattle Center 3 times a year. And I used to demonstrate stone cutting there. And he's a crazy old man. Great guy though, and he carves all these tiny little opal things, and this is one of his tricks. He taught it to me 2 weeks ago, or it was 2 weeks ago at the Inner Gem Show. And so it's not my technique. I certainly haven't perfected it, but it's something that he gets very good results with, and you could try and work on different softer materials. This is just a bristle brush, and then on this side I have one of the yellow yellow treated buff things. And this is bobbing compound. He takes his bristle brush and rotates it really just sort of slowly a couple times underneath the flame, which puts like little, it melts the ends of the bristles a little bit and makes like little teeny beady balls, which help hold your compound. So what he does, pick some softer
And you put a compound on
Here we got some opal. Give me another opal.
And what compound do you put on the...
Bobbing compound.
Bobby.
Yeah. So let's say I want to work on this opal a little bit, and he actually does this to take scratches out of opal. I wouldn't try it on a client's good opal ring to start, but you can get lots of cheap opal to play with. And he just feeds his bobbing compound in there almost constantly and holds the stone underneath and lets the bristles in the bobbing compound work it. So I'm holding the compound in as I'm holding the stone underneath. You know? And it gets warm. You know, warm is okay. Hot is not okay. And so that's his technique for taking scratches out of opals. And you can try it. Of course, I'm not real hot on the idea because I have professional lapidary equipment. Why would I want to do it this way? But it's something that you could do and try. And he says he's successful with this on all stones up to a 6.
6 hardness.
6 hardness, yeah. So, you know, lapis, turquoise, rhodochrosite, opals, labradorites. But it does tend to sort of leave a scratchiness to your stone. Then his polishing method is, he takes his treated yellow buff, and he does really nice work with this. Like I said, he's an opal carver. I'm not an opal carver, but this is what he does. Treated yellow buff. This is cerium oxide with a little bit of water in it and just a flux brush. And he feeds his compound into this treated yellow pad, and again, it's just holding a stone underneath it.
That's really neat.
Pardon me?
That's really neat. I never knew how you could use that well.
And you see, I am starting to get a shine there. I mean, it's not quite the finish I would get if I was doing it, you know, my way. But, you know, you don't have that luxury, so. You feed. Pardon me? Cerium oxide. I think, is it on the, on your notes under polishing technique? Cerium.
Could you use that on harder stones too, the cerium oxide?
Oh yeah, I use cerium oxide on different stones. That's the other thing. And then the second step of his technique is then he takes tin oxide, and I would never do this, but he does this, and he's, you know, everybody has their different little techniques, right? And he takes tin oxide and does the same thing on the same wheel. So he's mixing his compounds, and generally that's a no-no. But you know, it's a cheap wheel, it's easy to change, big deal if it works, you know? If it doesn't work, you just have other wheels and you keep them separate. You know, and see, he does get, you know, through his techniques, he gets a shine over there. You can pass that around if you want it. Let's see. I'm gonna slow this down. No, I've had a lot more success with what I polish at home, and I haven't really tried this on a buffer, but I use a felt pad, not a felt wheel. Growing up I used a felt wheel, but I use a felt pad on a flat lap going at a very slow speed with just a little bit of water so it doesn't get too hot, and I use a special kind of aluminum oxide that they were giving away free samples in Tucson one year, and it seems to work really well, and it was free. And I got, you know, I kept getting free samples. I'm like, oh, I'll take one. You know, so this is a medium hardness felt wheel that you can buy from, you know, your buffing supplier. You know, they sell it for all sorts of things. I'm going to try this on slow with tin oxide and see how we go. Oh, this is a piece of goldstone that I was practicing on last night. I sanded this on really quickly, not real thoroughly, but quickly. I did it on all the different diamond grips on the little flat discs. So let's see if I can polish it. I mean, I didn't, like I said, I was just testing them out. I wasn't trying to do a real thorough job. And I use a little bit of water on your felt pad. And generally, I put a little bit of compound on the buffer and on the stone.
That's the tin oxide.
Yeah. You can really just experiment with different compounds in different materials. I go through phases. Like right now, And for a long time I've been in this phase of, oh, aluminum oxide on felt, I can polish anything with it. And then I'll have something that's really stubborn, and I'll go, oh, I can't get a polish on this. And I'll go to the other side of my unit and go, you know, I haven't tried cerium oxide on leather in a long time. And I'll do that, and I'll go, what was I thinking? Cerium oxide on leather, you know. So, wow, this is really nice and slow. And you can, when you're polishing, you want to build up a little bit more heat, but you're not too much, and it's something you really got to test. You don't want it to burning hot, although by the time you see me Wednesday, my fingers will probably be glossy and shiny from polishing all tonight. And that's the other thing with this optics, is you can apply a little bit more pressure and not burn your fingers. And we're starting to get a polish on there. Had I spent more time on the sanding belts, I might be able to do a better job, but we could also maybe try it a little bit faster. Of course, this is glass, and so it could get too hot. Goldstone is actually a rare Venetian glass. This is what I was going to do. This is that little cabochon that was broken on the end, and I sanded down the edges. And let's just see if we can, if this is the proper thing. And every once in a while, you're going to want to put a little bit more water on your wheel. Just a little. You don't want it dripping. You just don't want it going dry. And you drop things every once in a while. I've been training my assistant to not freak out when he drops things. He's taking, like, dropping something and going like this, grabbing onto the unit, like, calm down, it's just a rod. It's starting to get a little shine coming up out of there. But polishing is really a tricky thing, and it's still one of the most frustrating things for me to do, is to, like, figure out how to get the right polish on the right stone. So,
You don't have a low on your buzzer with higher head polish?
yeah, it has to be, you know? Yeah, I mean, you're not going to ruin it, but you might get to a point where you have to go back and redo something. Like, you might get a burn mark in your stone, and then you have to go back and sand the burn mark out, and then, you know, then you have to come back a step or two. Or a lot of times when your stone will look great, and then when you get to polish it, you'll realize, oh my God, there are all these scratches in there that I didn't see. And it's not that, you know, the polisher put the scratches in, it's just that you didn't see them until everything else was shiny. Or it's really easy to, like, work a whole stone and just miss a corner that's curved down, because you have to go like that to get it, and you miss it. And then you notice when you're polishing it, oh, and then you got to go back and sand that one. So, but these are all different techniques you can experiment with. And generally slower is better with, like, things like this, with a leather wheel, like a leather flat lap, or, well, see, you could also use this as a flat lap, and I was just sitting there thinking, if you could get something like this, and you could glue a piece of leather on here, just like a piece of suede on there, cut it to size, use goop, or you can get lapidary goop, or you could just use household goop, goop it on there, and then you would have a leather buff right there, and you could just get it a little bit wet, and put your compound right on the side. And you can do it with the felt too. You can use, like, if this isn't a nice surface for you, or if you want to hold something flat, you can just do it on the side too. But as long as your spindle didn't come through, or if it did, you didn't use the center, you could create your own little flat lap here and use and do leather.